Oh hi, I didn't see you there. I'm Philbert D, and we're back in this office again. This is Phil on Films. This week, Black Lipstick and Gemini Man. Irene Alcantara plays Jessica, a second-year transferee at an exclusive university. She has vitiligo, which means that she has visible lighter patches on her face, making her really insecure about her appearance. One night, a mysterious lady gives her a tube of black lipstick. When she puts it on, her skin clears up. She starts living a double life, one as a shy, quiet student, and another as a successful beauty vlogger. So if we're just talking about the film, there isn't a whole lot to say. It's that kind of bad movie about young people that feels like it was written by old people. You know, like young people talk a certain way and all their lives are consumed by social media, and that's why they commit suicide or whatever. That stuff. That thing where it's like a person's conception of young people is basically what they see on TV Patrol. So on that level, this is a bad movie on its own. But I want to talk about something more important. I think that it's great that movies want to discuss the broken standards of beauty in society. It happens. That's what this film is essentially about, how women are held up to these ridiculous standards of beauty, and they have to do the makeup and they have to change who they are or whatever. And I think, sure, that's good. But we already all know this, and if we just keep talking about it without actually doing anything about it, then we haven't actually progressed. Instead of making a movie about how, say, these standards of beauty are toxic and depicting like the life of a social media influencer who gets makeup sponsorships and gets all sorts of benefits from being beautiful, maybe we just make movies about people who don't need to be thought of as beautiful. What if we made more films about, say, scientists or construction workers or anybody else that doesn't need to be held up to these same standards? Because that's how we move forward. Once we stop making films about characters that need to be beautiful or are thinking about being beautiful or are so suffused by a world that wants them to be beautiful, maybe that's how we move forward as a society. Because otherwise, this is just that same thing over and over. We keep going around in circles. We keep like patting ourselves on the back for thinking, hey, yeah, maybe we don't need to be so obsessed with beauty. And it's like, this film doesn't even do that well. The main character of this film has vitiligo. That's an interesting way to do it, I guess. But maybe if the film was really serious about its beauty standards thing, why didn't it cast an actress with actual vitiligo? We had to make her up. We had to do special effects to give her that skin condition. As much as this film is all about, people who aren't traditionally beautiful are deserving of our attention too, it doesn't actually go out of its way to actually live up to its own standards. Anyway, this is a bad movie that depicts young people in a really broken, abstract way and doesn't actually contribute to the further discussion of the realigning of the beauty standards of our society. 2 stars. Will Smith is Henry Brogan, an assassin who works covert operations for the US government. The film begins with him pulling off one last mission before declaring his intention to retire. He finds out though that he was lied to about the target of his last mission. His former bosses send men to kill him to cover up their lies, but Henry manages to escape them. Desperate, they then send their best asset, a younger clone of Henry Brogan himself. The movie is most interesting if you think about it as just a technical showcase. Ang Lee shot this at 120 FPS, and I suggest that if you want to see this movie at all, you go to an IMAX theater where they're probably going to show it at high frame rate. Now, I think among critics, I'm more open to the idea of high frame rate. I don't really romanticize the technical limitations of early film. But I saw this movie and while I remain open to it, I can't say I was thoroughly convinced by the technology. So with 120 frames per second, you're getting this like really smooth motion for all the action, all the camera movement. It looks like if you go to an appliance center and you look at those giant HD TVs and they have this demo video showing, that's the motion that you're gonna see in this film. But it's gonna be Will Smith running around and stuff. Sometimes that's great. What I found is that when the camera stays on one plane of motion, it's kind of cool. You're like, wow, that looks like real life. When it does a shot that moves on more than one plane, your brain goes, oh no, something's gone wrong. I want to throw up. I'm not convinced, but it's interesting. If you want to see this movie at all, again, go see it there because it's gonna at least give you something to think about. Because let me tell you, this script does not give you much to think about. You're gonna be focused on the motion and stuff because this screenplay, which has apparently been around for 20 years, is really bad. It's just, the plot doesn't really make much sense. The characters are perfunctory, I guess. They exist because characters exist and the plot needs to move forward somehow. But it never makes sense. It's never affecting. It's never compelling. It's never even interesting. Again, I watched this thing via the IMAX with laser thing. And that's a great way to see a movie. It's very nice, very clear. The motion thing did give me a lot to think about. But through all that, it was like, yep, stuff is happening on screen. I don't really care. The thing with two Will Smiths, the effect is kind of good most of the time. But there are some times, especially when a scene is in broad daylight and characters are just talking, where you can see that the younger Will Smith is a robot of some sort. It's just, de-aging has never ever worked in cinema. So anyway, it's not a particularly good action film. It's a really bad script. The thing that's most interesting about it is the technology. If you're interested in technology, go check it out, I guess. Otherwise, this is just a 1.5 star film. It's question time! Filipino director Kip Oebanda asks, can you recommend some good obscure horror films for October? I have 3 off the top of my head. One might not be so obscure. But yeah, and one more that I haven't seen, but my girlfriend recommends. 1. Dream Home by Pang Ho Chung. It's kind of a slasher film set in Hong Kong. It's about the housing crisis basically in Hong Kong and this lady who goes to extreme lengths to get herself her dream apartment. It's very good. 2. Last Summer. That's from 2013. It's a Thai film. It has 3 directors, I think. It's one continuous story, but it's kind of like a shake, rattle, and roll kind of deal. And what I really like about it is that I think horror movies should be about things. It's not just like, oh, there's a ghost. Like, your ghost represents something. Here, it represents the guilt of an entire group of friends. I think it's like a real sleeper, really good Thai horror movie. 3. The Descent, Neil Marshall. A bunch of girls go down into a cave and there are monsters there. And it's Neil Marshall, and Neil Marshall's very good. You might not think that if you saw the last Hellboy movie, but no, he's actually really good. And The Descent, I think, is his finest hour. And the last recommendation isn't for me, it's from my girlfriend who is telling me to watch this film, and when I find the time to watch this film, I will. It's a film called Lake Mungo from 2008. It's an Australian film, I think. And it's also a ghost and a family, and yeah, check it out. Hey Santipolo on Twitter asks, what can you say about Martin Scorsese's comment on Marvel films not considered to cinema but liken them instead to theme parks? Guys, everybody made too big a deal about this. I think what he actually just said was, he didn't like them himself. He didn't watch most of them. I don't think anybody can say like what cinema is or what cinema isn't. I certainly won't make that call. He's Martin Scorsese. He's not the guy that's like, some movies aren't valid movies. He's Martin Scorsese. He's a supporter of Val Luther. He was one of the biggest supporters of like Ida Lupino. He made a documentary on Elia Kazan and had to struggle with his feelings about his films given Hugh Hackman and all that. This is a guy who has a serious history of cinema. And like, if he thinks they're not cinema, then he thinks they're not cinema. He's not the guy telling. I said this on Twitter. If somebody doesn't love what you don't love, it doesn't invalidate your love. It doesn't mean that your love for it is wrong. If you love these Marvel movies, if you think they're cinema, then great. You love them. They're cinema. Just because Martin Scorsese thinks otherwise, I mean, who cares? Who cares? Who cares? Let's move on. KDLP on Twitter asks, any plans on reviewing films that are streaming on Netflix, original films, and I want? Sure, I guess. Maybe. It's really hard because of like the weird release schedule. They're usually released on Fridays. We shoot on Wednesdays. Timing them with the release of movies here, and I generally don't have time. Also, it's like there's already a lot of reviews for Netflix, for example, and I don't know if I can add to that. I'm really interested in, but there hasn't been a film yet that I think has been like, I really, really want to talk about this movie. It's mostly just been, I guess that's kind of interesting. What I'm actually more interested in, and when I find the time, I will actually do this. I want to go through some of those I Want series because I think they're more interesting than the movies that are being produced currently. But I am an old man, and I am running out of time, and I kind of sometimes want to not watch movies. Wanks Napula asks, will you do a second viewing of The Joker? Okay. I rarely do second viewings of films I like. Why would I? I guess, like, I have not been convinced that like there is something that I missed. I really went into this real hard. I went into it like I really thought about this a long time. And yeah, no, I saw it. I will probably see it again because it's gonna be showing everywhere. It's gonna be on TV one day, and I'm gonna see it again. And I don't know, man. I think outside of the cinema experience, I think people might actually find that it's less impressive than it actually is. If you're viewing it on a smaller screen or whatever. I don't know, man. If I do have a second viewing of The Joker and my mind changes, trust me, I will tell everybody that I was wrong. I rarely afford film second viewings. I have to really, really love a film to see it 2 times. I saw Ad Astra twice. That's about it. Yeah. So, yeah. No. So, thanks for joining us. Reminding everybody that Q Cinema starts on Sunday. Well, it opens on Sunday. You can buy tickets for screenings starting Monday. And there's a lot of good stuff in there. They're doing something really interesting this year where it's really starting to look like an actual international film festival instead of just these grant-giving, like Cinemalaya type copycats. So no, check it out. It might be fun. I think the gateway stuff will be fun at the very least because the community will be there. Now, if you like this video, like it. If you didn't, actually dislike it. It's fine. It's fine. But you know, if you want to continue liking and disliking my videos, you might want to subscribe. Leave a comment or ask a question and do all the internet things. And until next time, goodbye internet. Lenny is my vice president.